Well, joining us now is clinical psychologist Dr. Geri-Lynn Utter to break this down. So, Geri, this movie has made headlines for covering big existential themes that aren't always easy to talk about with your kids. I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic where death really seems to be all around us. How are we supposed to talk to kids about a topic like death?
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. Regarding a topic like death, it's very important just to be very honest and direct to your children. You don't want to mix your language. So for example, a lot of people may say things like, I'm putting the dog to sleep, or the dog went to sleep. Or if a family member dies, they may describe death as sleeping. And that's not something that you want to do, because a child is going to turn around and say, hey, well, when is my grandmother, my grandfather, my dog going to wake back up again? So the first thing that you really want to do is just be very direct and honest. Explain that the person is not going to come back. I know this sounds very harsh, that the person is not going to come back, that their body stopped working. And then from there, the next thing that you should really do is allow the child to process that. When we talk about things like death, patience as an adult or as a caregiver is something that's key, because for a child, they kind of take and they absorb information in chunks. So what you want to do is you want to give them the facts, keep the language very honest and at their level, but then kind of sit back and allow them to come back to you and ask you questions. And it's very, very normal for them to ask you questions time and time again, because that person that passed away, that loved one, they may remember it. Like that person, used to go to my basketball games or my football games, and it may trigger, hey, well, where is that person? Where is my grandmother? Where is my grandfather? So what you find yourself doing as adults is kind of feeling repetitive, but the key is to be patient, to be direct with your language, and to also, as yourself, as the adult, it's okay to also emote and to show emotion and grief around your children as well.
Right. Now, what happens when we don't have these conversations with our youth?
Yeah, so as parents, as caregivers, we want to do the best that we can to protect our children. And sometimes we think that less information or not providing accurate information is helpful, but it's actually the adverse reaction. It's harmful. So if you don't explain to your children that mortality is something that's going to happen, that people die, when something does happen like death and they haven't been educated on it, then a lot of things like anxiety and fear and being alone and being abandoned will kind of take over, the child's psyche or the child's brain, if you will. So what you want to do is you just really want to have those conversations, take opportunities to have those conversations. If a family pet dies, if a fish dies,
Right.
if you're watching a movie with your child like Soul, take those opportunities there to start to talk to them about death and dying.
All right, so quick answer here. The meaning of life, especially now, when life as we know it has changed dramatically, can be really hard to think positively about. How do you keep your kids mentally stable and positive during this? Quick answer.
Yeah, well, I have two kids. I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old. And what I do is I allow them to express their emotions to me. So during this time, there's a lot of frustration, crying, irritability. Their moods are fluctuating. Our moods are fluctuating. So the best thing that I let them do is feel those emotions, experience those emotions, remain patient, and continue to talk to them, not make them feel bad or not constantly yell at them. They're going through something that's unknown, just like we are. But kids typically don't have the language. So it's really important for us to stay tuned with their emotions.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Such an important topic.